the mega corporation that basically runs the show. It's almost like a futuristic version of, Roxxon Oil or something like that in the main Marvel universe, where Roxxon is extremely, we get to Tyler Stone. You don't have one, think tank. All different kinds of people have different kinds of think tanks. Reed Richards has a Future Foundation, which is some of the world's smartest.
It's like this, my man. Every good relationship has a reacher and a settler.
Exactly. One person reaches for someone out of their league, the other one settles for someone below theirs.
I did not settle for Lily.
How I Met Your Mother presents Lily and Marshall as the perfect couple. Lily and Marshall are their friend group's example of true love, a perfect relationship, or at least as close as it gets to one.
Hey, you guys are such an inspiration to the rest of us, how you're so devoted and connected. I look at you guys, and that's all I want in the whole world.
In many ways, their relationship is the reason for the show, because on the very first episode of the series, they get engaged, which prompts Ted to suddenly become obsessed with finding the one he needs to marry, because Ted is a self-absorbed romantic terrorist who needs to make everything about him. But we're not talking about Ted right now. Back to Lily and Marshall. At the start of the show, Lily and Marshall get engaged after 10 years together, and the show ends with them happily married. But I have an unpopular opinion, and that's that Lily Aldrin did not deserve Marshall Erickson, because for no logical reason, she believed that she could do better than Marshall, often thought the grass would be greener on the other side, and as a result, she has been selfish and inconsiderate towards Marshall in significant ways. To be honest, Lily can be pretty selfish and inconsiderate in general, even outside of her relationship with Marshall, but that's not the topic at hand. From the beginning of How I Met Your Mother, it's made clear that Lily is apprehensive about marrying Marshall, or at the least, apprehensive about what her life with him might look like. We learn this when she and Marshall go to visit his family in St. Cloud, and for whatever reason, despite having been with Marshall for 10 years already, and being very familiar with his family, his love of his family dynamic, and his love for St. Cloud, it's then that Lily starts panicking that marrying Marshall might mean a life in the suburbs with a family like theirs. Then, on another occasion, Lily and Robin are at the bar soon after Lily and Marshall got engaged, and men are hitting on Robin, but they aren't hitting on Lily. So Lily gets upset because she wants attention from other men who aren't Marshall. When Robin picks up on Lily's unhappiness and low-key jealousy that the men aren't flocking to her, Robin lies and tells her that the men probably aren't hitting on her because of her engagement ring. Like, men give a about that. So, what does Lily do? She removes her engagement ring to hopefully attract the attention from other men. And she still doesn't attract any men, because don't know men want Lily other than Marshall, which is important to note, because throughout the series, Lily is often referencing or dreaming about an alternate reality where she is more desirable than she is in several different ways, but we'll get back to that. For now, let me be clear out the gate. Let me make sure I shoot Lily this bail. A woman is entitled to have doubts or to change her mind entirely, even if she had all the information up front and a long time to process it and make her decisions, as Lily did, especially when her wedding date is quickly approaching, I suppose. And to be even more fair to Lily, Marshall is the only man she's ever been with. They're actually each other's first. There's a little dispute in later episodes as to whether Marshall is actually Lily's first when he learns that technically her high school boyfriend Scooter put the tip in, but whatever. I'm going with they're each other's first and only sexual partners. So back to what I was saying. Lily's only ever been with Marshall, and she's been with him since she was 18. So I can understand how 10 years later she could find herself in her late 20s, about to marry him, still in love with him, but feel anxiety at the realization that she's never had any other experiences outside of him. But there's a way to do things, and it's the way Lily did things that revealed where her mind was really at, how she felt about Marshall, and most importantly, the difference between Marshall's feelings for her versus her feelings for him. Lily doesn't talk to Marshall about her worries. Instead, she goes behind his back and applies to an art fellowship in San Francisco that would take place at the same time as her impending wedding, which Ted finds out because when Lily was trying to sneak to an interview for the fellowship, using Marshall's car, mind you, it breaks down, so she calls Ted for help, at which point she's forced to tell Ted about the fellowship. And although she insists she was just doing it to see if she was truly talented as an artist and could get get accepted and wasn't planning to actually go if she was accepted, Ted correctly points out that that's a bunch of bullshit because they live in New York City, one of the artistic and cultural hotspots of the world. So she did not need to go to San Francisco to do that. So there's obviously more to why she chose San Francisco at a time that conflicts with her wedding and to do it behind Marshall's back. But she continues to just gaslight Ted some more before leaving for her interview. And in the vein of illustrating that Lily is a selfish and inconsiderate character, it's worth mentioning that despite the fact that she called Ted to help him, knowing he was going on a big date he was looking forward to, and forced him to drop what he was doing to come help fix the car, once he does, she jumps in the car and leaves him stranded on the side of the road with zero regard for how he would make it back to the city. Child, anyway, couldn't be my friend. When Lily is accepted to the fellowship and eventually Marshall learns of it, the same Lily that was swearing up and down first to Ted and now to Marshall that she only applied for applying's sake, not only insists she has to take the fellowship, she breaks up with Marshall, leaves him, changes her phone number and goes no contact. They had a wedding that was not even a month away. Their entire families and everyone they knew was planning to be there. Thousands of dollars put down on what she claimed was her dream venue that she and Marshall had to fight to get. And she not only leaves them with no regard for the money they and probably their families had spent, the emotional labor it would be on Marshall to inform all these people that the wedding was called off, or the emotional pain she'd be putting Marshall through by leaving him, she fully ghosts him. Lily could want to have experiences outside of Marshall or to pursue her dreams of being an artist without breaking up with him or calling off the wedding. And even if she was going to break up with him or call off the wedding, she still could have done it in 1,000 other ways that weren't remotely as callous or inconsiderate to Marshall in the 10-year relationship they had. And as a lawyer and someone who knows all too well that law school was the worst of times, I feel compelled to point out the added offense that she did this to Marshall while he was in law school, like he didn't have enough stress on his plate. So Lily leaves Marshall in a state of depression for months of radio silence, and she only comes back just expecting Marshall to take her back because she learned that the grass was not greener on the other side, because she's actually ass at art, broke as a joke, and again, don't nobody but Marshall want her. And when she comes back to town, she doesn't head straight to Marshall. Oh, no. She doesn't even beg for forgiveness. She first tries to find herself an apartment, and when she realizes she's a broke bitch who can only afford to live in squalor on her own, and that Marshall is finally starting to recover from their breakup, it's only then that she returns to Marshall, expecting him to just take her back. Even as Marshall expresses how what she did broke him, she simply lays on some white lady tears and asks him if they could please get back together. And this is important to me. Lily doesn't just fail to truly express that she understands the magnitude of how she hurt Marshall and what was so wrong with what she did in that moment. She never cops to it. Later on at Christmas time, after she and Marshall had finally gotten back together, she eventually hears a voicemail Ted left Marshall when Marshall was still depressed about their breakup. And in that voicemail, Ted tells Marshall something to the effect of, "Forget about that bitch." And Lily is outraged. It was then that I knew Lily was not only a bitch, she was a ridiculous bitch. Because what the else do you think you were being? Or you would be characterized as by someone's friends when you effectively ghost him less than a month before your wedding after 10 years of dating. That is the least of the dirty dog I would have been calling Lily had Marshall been my friend. But Lily truly thinks there is no ground for Ted to have said or thought that about her. So you know what she does? She decides to steal Christmas. She had decorated Marshall and Ted's apartment where she squats for Christmas because Marshall loves Christmas and was really looking forward to coming home to Christmas decorations after his law school finals and the long painful year that she caused him. But because she's mad at Ted for how he tried to show up for his friend who she left high and dry, she gets rid of all the Christmas shit despite the fact that the person that would hurt the most would be Marshall. It's actually Ted who ends up having to leave his own home for Christmas just to get this bitch to put the decorations back up so Marshall didn't have a shitty Christmas. Ted prioritized Marshall's feelings. Meanwhile, Lily prioritized her own. Lily is not just a bitch. She's a bitch who never takes accountability, and Marshall never makes her. Which is why she tries to muscle Marshall into eloping with her in Atlantic City, because she says she can't bear the judgment from their friends and family after what she did. But she had no problem leaving Marshall to bear that weight when she up and left him with the task of informing them all that the wedding wasn't happening. The audacity of that bitch is crazy. And if we
sooner,
Lily ended there,
welcome just
I
the
would
same.
get off her back. But
I'm in the
her
mansion,
selfishness and inflated
command
sense of
center.
self persists into their
Injured,
marriage
but
to Marshall.
intact.
Marshall
Most
eventually has
everyone
the
else
opportunity to
is,
get a big law job that will pay him a lot of money.
you've got eyes.
Lily is not particularly
Look,
supportive.
we need to get this situation under control ASAP. Be ready for anything.
Nevertheless, Lily is not particularly supportive despite the fact that they need the money. Because unbeknownst to Marshall, Lily is in a shit ton of credit card debt because this bitch want to be rational, irresponsible, buying clothes and shoes with money she don't have, like her name is Carrie Bradshaw. And she still doesn't tell them about her debt until they're already married and applying for a mortgage to get a New York City apartment. A New York City apartment. They eventually get that apartment at an 18% interest rate, leaving Marshall with no choice but to take the lucrative big law job and work himself to death to afford this place. Eventually, though, Marshall quits because he's miserable at his job, but he still has to pay their mortgage because I want to remind y'all, Lily don't have no fee. She does not even have the ability to rent a decent apartment without Marshall. All she has is debt. So, when Marshall quits his job and is still struggling to pay the mortgage, all he asks from Lily is to sell just 15
That's all
the many designer clothes that she put them in debt to buy, which is what saddled them with an 18% interest rate for their mortgage. And this woman throws a fit like he's trying to oppress her. And instead, he let her try to sell her shitty art for the money. And you know what she learns about her art? The same thing she learned when she tried to do the art fellowship. Her art is ass. Yet again, confirming that Marshall is not the reason she never became a big artist. And while we're talking about the apartment, I think it's important to revisit the fact that not only does Marshall have to take on the entire burden of paying for this disproportionately expensive piece of shit apartment in the city, Marshall hates New York City, which Lily knows and could give a less about. Not only did Marshall tell Lily up front from the very beginning of the show he'd prefer to raise their family in a suburb like the one he grew up in St. Cloud, he later on flat out says he
failed them.
Hates New York City.
I hate New York. I'm too big for New York. Okay, I'm always trying to fit into cramped little subway seats or duck under doorways that were built 150 years ago. Build bigger doorways. What the hell is the matter with you?
And Lily doesn't go.
You have numbers, but I have me. So the man gonna work like a dog to support her dreams. But fine. That's Marshall's choice, right? It is. But would you believe that after all of that, after everything Marshall does for her, after all her shitty behavior and lies he's excused, after all the many times the universe has revealed to her that there is no alternate reality where she's better off without Marshall, would you believe that in the episode where the group is discussing the idea that in every relationship there's a reacher and a settler, this penniless, no